next to me in my blooper studio. Well, I think that's what we're calling it, isn't it? My blooper studio. This is where every Sunday I commit gaucheries live on air. But with Macadam and Mawkes with me, I'm not going to commit any gaucheries whatsoever, because we're going to be really looking at what Matthew Mawkes has achieved with crowdfunding his latest movie venture. And then a little later on, Stuart and I will also talk to Matthew about marketing it. And finally, we'll wrap up with their picks for the best and the worst films in 2016. But without any further ado, Matthew, could you tell us about your latest adventure in movie making, which is incredible?
Yeah, well, David, thank you. It's I mean, the non-fun part of movie making is what I've been going through the last several months, which is fundraising. And it's the thing that a lot of independent filmmakers, this is where they can fall over. They might have a great idea, they might have an awesome movie on the cards, but getting the money together is always the tough part. So we decided, you know, this is our first feature film, so we'd go with the crowdfunding. And we did it on Kickstarter and launched it back in, I think it was late July, for 40 days, and we had to raise 40 grand, so $1,000 a day. It was a very, very, very lofty goal, and at certain points we weren't so sure that we were going to get there, but we did. In fact, it's the second most successful original Kickstarter campaign ever to come from New Zealand. And
wow, that's incredible. Did you know that? Second most successful Kickstarter campaign?
I did. The most successful one, I believe, was Antarctica: A Year on Ice.
Yeah, beautiful documentary. Taika Waititi has crowdfunded US releases of Boy and What We Do in the Shadows. Those are very, very big amounts of money, but not original campaigns. So I'm claiming the second place and very happy with it.
Second place in New Zealand, world famous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested. This movie is a kind of psychological thriller, real thriller. I had a look at the trailer and was just fascinated within that little trailer what was going on. How did this idea possibly come into existence?
Yeah, so my co-writer Mark Willis and I love thrillers. We love horror movies. And we actually found ourselves sitting on his balcony one day just trying to brainstorm ideas for a cheap movie that we could make as our first feature film. So he had always wanted to make a film about a man on home detention. And I always really loved the idea of a blind character. So we matched these two things together and then spent the next couple of years writing ourselves out of corners. And it was really, really fun, awesome experience co-writing, which has led to what we think is a really cool script and should, you know, deliver a very exciting, visceral thriller. Yeah,
any comments, Stuart, about the trailer as a sort of an entree into it?
I was quite fortunate to not only see the trailer, but also a sneak peek of one of the scenes which they've been filming, and it looks absolutely fantastic from a point of tension, suspense, writing, cinematography, lighting, everything you could really ask for in a good old-fashioned thriller. It's you'll be able to see it in blind panic.
Yeah.
And that sense of tension is something that's integral to both script and also the cinematography.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, the film does spend time getting to know the characters. There's a build-up as you learn who these people are in their lives, and we have a man who's on home detention and a blind woman who also feels trapped in suburbia. So it takes its time, but then there's a twist, and then we really start turning the screws, and it really turns into a thriller.
Was the process of co-writing, did that actually help to build tension because you were coming from different directions and had to sort of critique each other's work, and so you build a better and better script all the time?
Yeah, and I'd recommend co-writing to any screenwriter out there. It's how most films are done. Most films are co-written, and I can see why, because when you have someone else in the room, first of all, to bounce ideas off, that's fantastic. But also to help edit you and laugh dumb ideas out the door. And it just makes the whole process more disciplined and more fun at the same time. So definitely worked for us, I think, with Thriller, but I would co-write again any day.
What about in terms of, you said putting the screws on, do you have an idea of the cinematography you're writing the script and you come up with a great script, but is there a cinematographic image that's in your mind as you're writing that script?
There is, David, but I'm going to let all that go because I'm not directing it. Mark's directing it. I'm producing, so it's his job.
Oh, I love that answer. I love that answer. So how does it fit? Sorry, go for it.
Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, how does it feel at this point to have got the project as far as it has? Because when we were talking last at the end of 2015, this was a project that was still sort of, you know, oh, well, we're not quite sure what's happening, but there's something going to happen. But now it's just in a different space, isn't it?
It is, yeah. The crowdfunding campaign is our green light. So we didn't, yeah, it's the green light to make the movie. We have to make a movie now. We have a responsibility to our funders to make the movie. And we have the means now too. So yeah, it's full steam ahead. Whereas last year when we were talking, it just at an earlier stage. We had received a little bit of money from the New Zealand Film Commission, sort of startup funds, I guess you could call them. And now we've got a much larger amount of money and we're continuing to do fundraising. Yeah, so we're shooting in April. So it's happening.
How does the transition from director to producer feel?
Well, I don't know. I think for this particular project, being co-written with Mark, I sort of have naturally fallen into the role of producer. Never produced a film before, so he's never directed a feature film before either. So we're sort of self-actualizing ourselves into existence. It just sort of fit. I think I do a lot of fundraising in my day job, and I do a lot of events management. So I think I guess I have some of the right skills to be a producer in. And Mark is a phenomenal director. I sing his praises. He's got all the right attributes and skills and eye for detail. He needs to direct this, and I'll just try to get the support behind him, the money he needs, people he needs, whatever it is to make it happen.
Yeah, one thing that I would say from a marketing perspective, using like crowdfunding websites, is that it provides the perfect foundation to kickstart your project in terms of generating awareness for your film, who's starring in it, who's producing. It really just launches everything and generates an early type of hype, so that by the time you began filming, you're not building an audience from the ground up. You've already got an established platform of people that are interested in the film itself, and you can really use that and leverage off it to take it places, because people will want to ultimately see it on the big screen in cinema. You know, they feel like they're also a part of the project, which is one of the great things about crowdfunding, not only in fundraising for movies, but also a lot of other things as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, Stuart, you do crowdfunding sourcing for some of your projects?
I've done it with one client before, and we, I think, scraped to the target which he'd set for himself. But looking back at it in hindsight, we weren't as well prepared as what Matthew might have been, as far as probably not just the determination, but also with the amount of outreach that we did. I think Matthew did an incredible job traveling up and down the country and running these fundraising evenings and reaching out to people and constantly being in contact. With my client that we did the fundraising project with, we sort of just went on a bit of a women of prayer and hoped that people would respond after we'd already launched it. Whereas in looking back, you need to have a good plan in place before you even click go.
Yeah, I will say though, Stuart, I think that I was a little unprepared. I think what some people do is they spend a lot of time building a social media presence for themselves, and they spend a lot, and we didn't really do much of that. I mean, we've been writing in a dark room for too long, and I don't think we had spent enough time building an audience, so we had to go out there and kind of find it on the fly, and hence me around the country like P.T. Barnum. So I yeah, it's bad with very big learning curves. Kickstarter, not for the faint-hearted, believe me. It was yeah, a lot of work.
Yeah, one thing I'd say as well is that we did an interview with Matthew on Cinema Addicts, and I boosted it by I think like $30 or $40, and it still is our most read interview ever. And I think Matthew got a bit of funding out of that as well. So it does show the power which that sort of like public relations marketing side does have, and that it really does carry across.
It does,
yeah. One of the things, of course, is that with this kind of live on-air broadcast, because we do the other, which is a bit more audience driven and then distributed, but with this kind of live on-air, we just sort of make it Creative Commons. So anything that we do, you can use, Matthew, in any way whatsoever.
Thank you.
When we get to the point of watching this film, what is the one kind of thing that you want us to take away from the event, from the cinema? Is it to be scared? Is it to be inspired? Is it to go out and commit criminal acts? What's it about?
Oh, that's a good question, David. I would love the audience to... my goal is for them to certainly be on the edge of their seat, but I want them to cheer. You know, I want them there's a certain point in the film where I want the audience to just go wild, you know, because it's a very, very important major turning point for our character where everything comes together and things go up a notch. And I really want them to be cheering in the aisles. That would really be awesome.
Okay, well, I'm sure that I'll be cheering in the aisles, though I have been known to fall asleep at critical times. But what Stuart said was absolutely true. I think that when you've got more people involved, they're the ones that are going to sit on the edge of their seats because they've got a stake in the outcome of this movie. And there must be a feeling inside of you that says, wow, how did I do this? The feeling of the crowd behind me already at this point before we've even got them in the cinema.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely mind-blowing and humbling, because a lot of the people who supported us and who donated to our campaign weren't people of means. They weren't people, you know, really who had money, and yet they were so generous. So yeah, it's humbling, I think, more than anything else. And we've got a movie to deliver for them, and that audience can, you know, now only grow and grow. And yeah, we'll see just how far we can take this independent filmmaking thing.
I've got a very specific question that I think has come up before in a couple of interviews that we've had, but I'm really intrigued by the creative process that the creative mind that tries to put together all of these diverse elements, because there are so many things that have got to go on, particularly when it's an indie film, when it's done on a shoestring. How do you cope with the pressures of all of those, both creative and commercial realities?
David, I was just looking for, because I have a Samuel Goldwyn on the back of it, and it says, "No person who is enthusiastic about this work has anything to fear from life." And I think that kind of it sums it up, because it's hard slog making a movie. It's so difficult. You've got so many elements working against you. There's a lot of money involved. There's actors, there's there's so many things that can and do go wrong when you're on set. But I think just at the end of the day, it's fun. It's so fun to make a film. It's so satisfying that yeah, you just keep going. Even though, you know, most people in my position who are just starting out, you know, still work a 40-hour week or whatever it is. Yeah, there's just nothing like being on a movie set and making a film, especially something that you wrote. So
how does it compare to the feeling of the first film that you made?
It's kind of similar. Yeah, I don't think that spark has stayed with me. Very first one I ever did, you know, I didn't know I had no idea what I was doing. But yeah, it was just so fun. So I guess maybe it's that simple. I don't know.
Okay, let's talk for a second now about the marketing of indie movies in more general terms. Stuart Macadam, your Cinematic site is kind of devoted to a large part of it is devoted to the idea of promoting indie movie makers in New Zealand. Have you got any comments about how you feel about that now, as sort of the Cinemaratics man, you know, with his finger into the pie of the local movie scene?
It's an interesting one, David. I think particularly from the point of having these people come to you. Like when we started out with Cinematics, we were doing a lot of outreach ourselves, and to have people that are independent filmmakers coming to us now with requests for interviews is quite overwhelming sometimes, but it's also very rewarding as well, because it helps us to see that a lot of talent is out there in New Zealand, and that a lot of the great films which have been made are the ones which not many people have heard about.
There's a wealth of talent in a little country like ours that comes out in so many different ways. As the two of you know, I believe that this sort of talent starts in high school, and it's when kids in these day and age, start making movies on Vimeo or YouTube or whatever, that are beyond the sort of, you know, this is what my family did at the beach over the holidays kind of thing. Okay, forget the junk. There are some very creative young minds out there who've got kind of a technology grasp at their fingertips. But there's a movie site in particular, whether you're an indie movie maker or in New Zealand or worldwide, there's one site in particular that Matthew and I have discussed. It's run by a guy called, I think, Robert Hardy.
I tell you what, David, I can't remember his name, but the site is No Film School.
No Film School. What's that site all about?
So this guy, it's just an awesome forum where he has shared great articles that are super practical from very knowledgeable sources that are freely shared. And too often in our business, you know, people hold things very close. You know, oh, it's a closed set. Oh, we're not sharing this information. You have to sign this form. But he has kind of an opposite approach, which is, here is everything that I have learned freely offered to you. No, it's really cool. I recommend, anyone interested in filmmaking, check it out. I download templates off it. You know, he's got so much good stuff on there.
The other day he was saying that he doesn't aim to make any money out of this whatsoever, but he's just wanting to share the information. So for someone like me that makes, you know, little 2-3 minute theological movies for YouTube, it's kind of like a godsend, because where else am I going to get that level of information and that level of expertise and that level of commitment and passion? And I emailed him back after one of the latest offerings, and I said, look, I think it's fantastic what you do. I have no idea how you make a living, or whether you're dying of starvation or whatever. I don't think he is somehow. But the fact that there are people like this, and they're there in the filmmaking community, they're there in other parts of the community, as we all well know, who devote, I think, quite selflessly, and then get great art at the end of it. It's the product that comes out that said all that passion and commitment was worthwhile.
Yeah.
Just aware that we're coming on time. We have slightly shorter time for live on air tonight. So for the last 10 minutes or so, I wondered, I've put the two of these guys on the spot. I've said to them, you've got to pick the best film of 2016 and you've got to pick the worst film of 2016. And it's no good having a list of 6, 10 or 20 in each category. You've got to be able to narrow it down to one. So I'd be really interested to hear, Stuart, Macadam, first of all, what's your best film for 2016?
Best film of 2016, I would have to go ahead and say it was War Dogs. I thought it was a fantastic tale about two young men who were arms dealers and were darting back and forth all around the world doing these big government contracts. I thought Jonah Hill and Miles Teller did a fantastic job of that, and it was a well-deserved 4.5 stars, I think I gave it. So I go with War Dogs.
You go with War Dogs. Also, was it slightly predictive of what happened in the US elections?
Ooh, no comment.
Oh, that's cautious. Okay, best film for you, Matthew Mawkes.
Okay, my favourite movie was, if I had to pick one, it's always hard for me, Swiss Army Man. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. It was very odd. It's about, a dead body played by Daniel Radcliffe, and this quite delusional guy who sort of rescues him from the ocean and carries him through the bush. It's a very heartwarming, touching, surreal, unusual movie. I loved it. I did not expect to, but loved it.
Okay, I think that's really great to have those two recommendations, Swiss Army Man and War Dogs. Now, the lemons of the year. What is the film that you would not recommend anyone go and see, Stuart Macadam?
Warcraft. It's based on the online video game, and it was just a nightmare from beginning to end. I don't think anybody who was involved in that project had thought it out carefully enough to try and turn it into a proper movie and also a proper story.
And how about at your end, Matthew?
I completely concur with Stuart. I will come up with my own one, but just never adapt a video game into a movie. Never, ever, never works. I really disliked Dawn of Justice. I really hated that bloody Batman movie this year. It was just dreary. It was dark. It was boring. It was soulless. So sucked. Maybe they'll have to do a better job with the next one, because superhero movies can be done really, really well, or just run of the mill kind of, yeah. So anyway, that's my pick anyway.
Well, that's really interesting. One of the local primary schools here in Auckland asked the principal was retiring, and they asked the kids what qualities, what do they want, for the next principal, and the school chose Batman. So,
there's been good. Batman.
Well, the trustees actually wrote it into the job description.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, coming to the end of this particular live on air, when's a good time for us to come back to you, Matthew, to do a sort of update for, next stage of things?
Well, David, I mean, we are shooting soon, really. I mean, we'll be shooting in April, so I would love to tell you what it was like making this movie once it's in the can. I might be a bit shell-shocked, but I'm sure I'll have some interesting stories to tell.
So if we sort of said right now to our live on-air audience, how about we come and interview Matthew again last Sunday in April?
Sorry, David, you cut out a bit. I couldn't quite catch that.
Oh, sorry. Last Sunday in April, then we'll make a date schedule for live on air.
maybe give me another week, just in case. I might need to hide in a darkened room for a week or two.
Probably got a bit of sleep to catch up on after that filming.
Well, we can't let him sleep. He's too passionate. Sleep is not an option. Sleep is not an option.
Sleep is for the weak, yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you both very much for joining me, and really looking forward to the next interview. Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you both for your support. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Stuart.
Pleasure.